inevitably, it's every time it seems to be preceded by this question: what do you bring to the table? And yeah, so that seems to be the question that kind of starts this thing between men and women, and
Mm-hmm.
and both of them are guilty, okay? But when somebody's asking what do you bring to the table, they're kind of asking you to validate your worth as a person or as a potential partner. And they're usually, if they ask you that, they're already coming to the table with the intent to disparage you. Like, nobody asked that question to like
It's a negative. It's a
boost.
very negative. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
negative.
No,
Negative. Like you're not worthy. Are you worthy to be talking to me? You know, what do
right,
you
right.
bring? I know what I'm bringing. I got. What do you? What's your
Yes.
list look like? And that's weird.
It's very strange, and it's never to build you up. It's always to set you up. Um, and so, like, when guys ask that question, whether it be on these podcasts or, reels or whatever,
Mhm.
um, women will list various traits or accolades because it's
Mhm.
it's actually a common sense answer to the question, what do I bring to the table? Well, you know I'm nurturing, I have a good job, I'm stable, blah blah blah. And then they will follow it up immediately, cut it off. Yeah, we don't care about that. What do you mean? And it's almost like they're using it to, like, everything that you say, you're like, okay, as a woman, okay, you don't care about my job, you don't care that I'm stable and successful and responsible. Okay, well, I could be a good homemaker and very nurturing. They'll say, well, other women can do that too. And everything you say, there's always this rebuttal. And
A
the
rebuttal. A
goal,
rebuttal.
yeah,
Yeah.
the goal is one by one to systematically sort of convince you as a woman that you're disposable, you're expendable, you're replaceable, you're not really important. And because you're not special, you should be perfectly willing to put up with a man doing whatever he wants to do because you should feel blessed in the first place that he wants you. So it's almost like this fear tactic to like scare women into thinking, okay, well, there's nothing that I bring to the table, so I should just be so happy that someone wants me. And it's like, no, because when you actually look at the statistics of the general population, a person's job is very important, and a lot of men or a lot of men care because,
I think a lot of things are taken out of context. So when when men say, "I don't care about a woman's job,"
mm-hmm,
okay, that's a statement that's taken out of context. A woman's like, "How can you not care about my job? It's important to me." The man is really saying that, you know what, your job doesn't define you, and it's not the reason that I'm with you.
mm-hmm,
I'm with you because I like you and I believe that you're a good woman, not that you can provide for me.
mm-hmm.
So those are two different things, right? But
Yes.
that's what the guy is saying. He just doesn't, it's not, he just didn't say it right. So now the woman gets defensive, like, you don't care about my job. I worked very hard. What am I supposed to do if you leave me? Okay, so it goes into that miscommunication on on what was said.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big part of it with this messaging, because the internet's loud. It's screaming on everything. Everybody has an opinion, and people don't. A lot of people can't articulate what they're saying. A lot of people are just saying things without really grasping it and adding context and adding layers to it. So it gets people confused, and when people are getting confused, they think the worst and they attack.
Mm-hmm.
Then the person's like, I didn't, oh, what are you attacking me? So it just becomes this like, hold on a second.
I just I think a person's job or their occupation does, but I think it does say a lot about them. Like, for instance, like, a man certainly would care if a woman's occupation was to be a stripper or whatever. Like, it
Oh
says something
yeah,
about
yeah.
that, it says something about your character.
Right.
Whereas if a woman says, I've always dreamed of being like the best stay-at-home mom in the world, well, that says something about some qualities that she possesses, right? When we come across somebody that is a surgeon, like, it suggests and indicates that maybe they're very meticulous and they have, it just says a lot about them. Um, And so I think the problem is when we're talking about the genders and they're talking to each other. When people in before the job subject comes up, it's almost the reason is 90%, at least with today's economy and inflation, 90% of men cannot sustain a household with 2 to 3 children um, on their income alone. It's just not feasible
Right,
unless
right.
you're
So
really, really cutting corners. So it's not even just that they care about it. They need it. They need
yeah,
that
most, I mean,
surplus.
60% of households are two income households.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Yeah,
literally
it's a
two working
necessity.
adults. Yeah. Working adults living a normal day, average American house, wherever you are, two parents working and making it happen.
Yep.
So, I mean, the red kid pit guys fantasize this stay at home wife, but that's really not for the most. That's really for the
It's just not
minority of guys.
affordable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not talking to anyone. You know, like literally, you're not talking to anyone. You're just trying to make yourself or the 1%, 2% of guys that could afford that sound like make the women think that's how other guys should be.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
make
not the
the women
case.
think that they have nothing to offer, so they should tolerate bad behavior. And it's just not the case. And I mean, and the other stat is that men overwhelmingly marry within their exact same socioeconomic status and education level.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, especially, and this is true, especially for the higher earners. So, like the whole thing
Exactly.
of, the more money a man makes, the less gets. Well, that's not true because the stats show that. So, like a Harvard educated lawyer is not bringing home a Wendy's worker for marriage. It's just not worth. Now,
Right. Right.
are there outliers? Yes,
Yeah.
but they literally make fairy tales and movies based off of this because it's so infrequent. Like the people usually marry across. Men are more comfortable with marrying below their status, but still, the
They're
averages
not gonna
show
go
that
from like they're not gonna go all the way like to they're gonna go like a couple
uh-uh,
rungs down, but you're not gonna get like you know it's somebody working at Chick-fil-A like
it's
for
not
the most
happening.
part because they don't operate like you. You know, they don't go
Right.
the same places you go and they're just not, you know, it's not it's yeah, they make the notebook or those movies, chick flicks that do that where it's like a big disparity.
Like
Hey,
Pretty
get
Woman, where the
yeah.
billionaire finds the lost, poor hooker, and it's like
Yeah,
that's
like
just
literally,
not
she's a
real
prostitute.
life.
Like that's she is literally she sells, and like if that doesn't.
That
No,
doesn't
he's not saving
happen.
them like
Like
that.
no, and usually a successful man like that's very educated, like they usually come from parents that are also, successful or they're in this realm like that, especially higher earners. And you're not going to be bringing home certain people to mom and dad that way. So anyway, just it's just across the board. While men are more comfortable going down a couple levels, um, the stats are still clear that men marry within their same status. So obviously there is, some importance put on it. And also just the burden of the economy right now that you have to,
Yeah,
unless you're very fortunate and incredibly successful, a stay-at-home wife is a luxury and is a privilege. And if you actually had to outsource all of her services and pay for it, because that's the other thing red pillars say, is like, oh, I could just get somebody to do all that stuff. You're not that
no,
special. And it's like,
not the
okay, they've
level.
actually,
No, I would
no,
need
but
like
it
two. I would need
costs,
like two or three. I told when she goes out of town, I was like, I need two subs. Okay, I need two
it's
subs because
expensive.
yeah,
It's
if you're going out of
expensive.
town,
And like New York City, they estimated that replacing all the services as like a full time stay at home mom goes up to about 200,000. In
oh,
smaller cities, obviously, it's about 50K, and that's why stay at home moms, even if they don't necessarily have a paying job, like their life insurance policies are pretty substantial. So it's pretty much if you can afford to keep them home and all that stuff, it definitely, that it's an advantage. But that's just not what we live in now. But for the ones that do, like, my hat goes off. I'm not in that situation. I choose to work. I work electively. My husband is perfectly capable of, providing. But I did the stay at home mom thing for a while, so like I
Yeah,
know the
and you know it's a
experience of
season. Like
both.
it's just, it's literally like maybe you need that when they're like you have a 2 year old and a
Yeah,
3 year old. Like that's when you need it. That's when you need okay, let me
yeah,
take a year or two off, infant stages.
yeah.
So it's not like
It's hard.
forever. Yeah.
It was so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no. I couldn't do it, And
Yeah.
most men can't, like literally. Like that's not that God trusted women to have kids because he knew men would mess it up. Like literally that's what it is. He's designed it that way.
You said it, not me. I didn't say
Yeah. No, I mean, that's seriously. Can you imagine guys having
it.
kids? It'll be terrible.
No. You guys, if it were up to you guys to actually like gestate and birth the kids, I am convinced that the population would have died out a long time
Yeah.
ago, because you got everybody would stop at one kid after they're like, "Oh my gosh, this really
Yeah.
sucks."
You see guys driving motorcycles and all this crazy, stupid stuff. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have like 4 kids. Get off the motorcycle. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Yeah. Oh.
That's funny.
Mhm. So I mean, so some solutions. So we can always talk about kind of problems that we're facing. So I think one of the solutions is the communication, to get more involved with religion and get to know God a little bit more. And one thing in dating, this is something I came up with. Like a lot of people when they're dating, they're just like all over the place. Like you really supposed to be dating for marriage and date
Mm,
sequentially, not in parallel. So if
yeah.
I'm gonna date you, I'm gonna look at you and
Date
not
you.
Susie, Mary. Right. I'm gonna date
Right.
you and give it a good shot. We have good conversations about marriage. About that's why we're the goal. We're dating for marriage, not to just to see how it goes, right? And if you go in with that concept, that hey, we're not just kicking it and just having fun. We're looking for I'm looking for a lifelong partner. And if it doesn't work out, great. Break it off, and then we go another direction. But if I have you and her, I can't be focused on you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't if I got two or three in my back pocket, and you start acting crazy, I just go over here or she's doing that. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. And for the women, if this guy's buying you that, this guy's buying you a bigger this one, like it'd be confusing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing
Yeah.
that the kids need to be more serious and more intentional in dating, the young adults, and be on that track, and just try it that way instead of this big spread out of disposableness, because that's what they do. They just select,
Yeah.
oh, they think, oh, this is one hang out. Okay, I'll go hang out over here. Like if I was dating you seriously and I liked you and I saw you like at Starbucks with another guy, it'd be like, well, like everybody should
Yeah.
wear on their forehead like in transparency. Like
Yeah.
if everybody was transparent and they had to say where they've been, who they're dating. Oh, I'm dating 3 people. Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to date you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm still in love with my ex. Oh, well, I don't want to date you. Like if you
Yeah.
were just transparent like that, it would be less confusion, less hurt, um, and hopefully more successful marriages and more people getting together on a very traditional framework.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of solutions. I mean, I would say throw away the red pill and the blue pill, go with the God pill. Anything less is going to be completely inadequate. But for the people who are primarily or entirely secular, I think empathy is a big part of it. I think you really need to try your best to put yourself in the other person's shoes and imagine somebody saying the things to them that you just said to them. Like, how would that make you feel? Type of thing. This is elementary, like we were
Yeah,
taught this stuff, in literally elementary school. Um, I also think eschewing the need for immediate gratification.
Right.
There's something that's incredibly rewarding about delayed gratification, even if that, whether it comes to relationships and like physical intimacy, um, or just like getting, finally reaching that place where you're financially comfortable, whatever, not being so quick to swipe right or swipe left on a relationship because this is
Right.
not social media. Delayed gratification is the key to all success in pretty much every arena. And that means you have to exercise discipline. So I think that's a huge component. Um, I would say the other thing that would be a good solution or a good piece of advice is to understand that marriage is not the intent of marriage is not to keep you happy all the time.
Right.
I think that's a really big misnomer of marriage. And I think it's a very immature mindset, honestly, very childlike. Um, the term happy to me, like, adults have transient moments of true happiness, but for the most part, it's primarily reserved for like children and dogs because it's more of a it's very transient and it's kind of a shallow emotion. I think the thing that people should aim for is more like contentment and peace. Um, because that's more attainable, like, and thinking that you're going to be happy all the time is just a recipe for disaster, whether you're single or in a relationship. But the primary goal of marriage is not to keep you happy all the time. It is not the other person's job to keep you happy all the time, but rather, the goal of marriage is every day to, fundamentally build a better, more sturdy relationship so that it literally lasts a lifetime. And what that's going to entail is a lot of disappointment. It's going to entail a lot of compromise. It's going to entail, having the wherewithal and the intestinal fortitude, okay, the grit to overcome what life will throw at you. It's not a matter of if, it's coming. Whether it's the death of your parents or the loss of a job or a really profound disagreement between you and your spouse, it's not going to spare you. And if you don't have the grit to withstand that with your partner, then life, the enemies of life, I guess, are going to defeat you. And also just understanding that when you do argue, because that again is inevitable, um, keeping the discussion, like, it's arguing is not inherently bad.
So I
Fighting
know what you're
is
trying. I
bad.
know what you're trying to say here. I got it. I just wrote it down. So consistency. So when you don't want your relationship to go like that, you want it to
Yeah,
go like this.
yeah.
Okay.
And you guys need
You
to
want it to be
balance each
consistent.
other.
Yeah, you've got to balance.
Yeah,
There's going to be bumps, but you don't want these bumps to be way out of bounds like this. And
yeah,
you have a lifelong partner. It's you got to see this person tomorrow. So you got to the words you say are like bullets. Okay,
yeah,
so don't throw them across the fence. You got to set some boundaries. I mean, we all do it. We cross boundaries, and you're like, you know what? I can't cross that boundary ever again. This really is hurtful, and I've got to get better.
yeah,
And you've got to start. You got to start learning how to cope with this person, and how to fight cleanly. And
yeah,
at the end of the day, you know what? It wasn't that important. Everybody gets upset. Everybody gets mad. Everybody goes through. You're not void from emotion and conflict. You don't get a pass.
yeah,
So you have to learn how to deal with it and how to mitigate it and how to overcome it and how to laugh about it afterwards. Um,
yeah. There's a level of maturity that comes with it, and I just think, keeping your arguments about the topic at hand rather than, turning it into like ad hominem attacks. Like, I think it's very easy for anybody in an argument where your feelings are invested once you get triggered. Maybe it was about something so stupid like who did the dishes or something. It very quickly switches from the dishes to, well, you never, blah, 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 like, whatever. It then becomes about the person and their character. And then
yeah, it starts.
now you've insulted their personhood, and then they come back at you. And then there's piles and layers, and then you feel guilty. And then it's just crazy. Just keep it about the topic at hand, you know? And understand that person is not your enemy. That is the person you chose
Yeah, your
forever.
whole
Like,
husband or wife. Yeah.
yeah, like that is your main, like, that is your main um teammate.
Teammate,
It's,
you're on the same team. You're on the same team.
yes, to
Fight,
beat them
go fight,
down is
win.
to
Yeah.
punch yourself in the face. It's
Yeah.
insane. But those would be my solutions.
Good. Good. I think those are very valid. Um, and hopefully these words echo. And my goal is to help one person. They watch this and then they say, "Oh, this makes sense," and they take something and they apply it to their lives, and it helps them in their situation. And
Yeah.
maybe another person sees it the next week, and that's what I can do. My small part in this world, to kind of share some of my experiences and my situation, because I guess I've been there and done some of that in my old age now. I can't believe I'm saying that, but
Crazy. That's crazy talk.
and we need it's kind of like our turn to kind of tell the young people, because there's so many people our age telling the wrong things,
Oh my
like
gosh.
telling them the wrong things, and it's sad. It's this whole, hey, freeze your eggs thing, and this whole just be a party, like, don't do that. That you're a high value man, you can do whatever you want. No, that's not what you want to be. And there's so much. It's like an echo chamber of this top layer of 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds saying, being loud, and these 20 and 30-year-olds, 25, absorbing this and making it like
Yeah.
their reality, when that's not how it should be,
That's not how it should be. That's not how it has to be. And, I think the other thing is people just need to take individual accountability. A lot of the audiences in these posts and these videos are obviously very hurt, very triggered, very angry, very
Wow.
lonely. And I think it's so easy when you're in that place to want to find a reason and an enemy to take it out on. And so the opposite gender, a different race, your coworker, just it doesn't matter. You can find anybody to be mad at. But the fact of the matter is, young people listening, if you are in a place in your life that and you're unhappy with your station in life, it's you.
I know, yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, it's you,
It's
right?
you.
Yeah.
It's you. Your relationships, everything. And there's no relationship where one person is always at fault. So if you've had a string of really bad relationships and, everybody's cheated on you or everybody's abused you, you're the common denominator. You're picking poorly, okay?
Right.
And if you're unhappy with your job, if you're unhappy with your friend group, if you're unhappy, period, it's you, and that is the best way to, like, it's painful, right? Because you have to absorb that accountability, but at the same time it's really empowering because yes, you are your own problem, but you're also
Mm.
your own solution. So that's
And
like,
once that
look at
clicks,
yourself.
and that accountability, be like, well, yeah, that's on me. Like, that's me.
Hmm.
Like, once it has to click, though, because people always say it's somebody else. Like, literally, like, they don't go down with that ship. They don't go down with that ship. They're scratching to prove it's somebody else. Like, a lot of
Yeah, it
these
goes
women
back
are
to the
saying,
attribution error,
yeah.
remember?
Yeah, a lot of these women saying, "I hate men. I don't need a man." In that
Sure.
same thread, I don't need a man. If you still want a husband, you're probably one that's never had one. I heard that comment. I was like,
Hmm.
dang, these women are really upset. And
Yeah, that's a stupid thing to say. You don't need a man until you need a plumber, right?
yeah,
um or an
and then they're
electrician or the
yeah.
police. It's so stupid.
Yeah, and like they'll post pictures of them traveling and them being free and stuff. I'm just like, you're so broken. You need this attention because you don't have that stable life that you want. So you're now trying to project this glamorous life in Greece and the
Yeah.
Mykonos and being fabulous, when all you really want's a good man, and you relax, and go to the fair with your kids. Like, I mean, literally,
Yeah,
like, but it's just everybody's just so broken, and there's so much
they
hurt they
are.
try to deflect into something else.
Let's say just face it. face it like a
Yeah.
man, face it like a woman, and
Yeah.
understand that you're the problem. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just truth, and that's, excuses are the tools of the weak. They keep you where you are. So it just doesn't serve any purpose. So
Yeah. That is true. That is true. Well, I hate to wrap this up because this is some good stuff. But thank you very much, Dr. Laura. Your insight has been spot on. You're a woman that knows a lot, and I like that. I like to hear that perspective and that honesty and the rawness
thank
about
you.
everything. Well,